Welcome to Achieving the Dreams webinar for prospective colleges. My name is Kate Doom, and I'll be the moderator for today. Your main presenter is Carol Lincoln. She is here with us. I want to go over some webinar basics briefly before Carol takes the helm. However, I'm having slight technical difficulty. 1 second. There we are. So welcome again. I'm going to advance this slide. This is how to use GoToWebinar. On the top right-hand side of your screen, you should see a little red box with a right arrow. You can click that arrow and get the larger box here, and it will tell you what audio mode you're in. I want to let everyone know that you're all muted so we can prevent background noise. However, we do have a way for you to ask questions. Our main goal for today is to tell you a little bit about Achieving the Dream and the request for proposals, and then answer all your questions. So please do submit your questions. There is a little questions box. You type in your question, press send. I will get your question, and I'll read it aloud to Carol, our main presenter, and Carol will answer on air. If you would like a follow-up question, or we didn't quite get at the question you were asking, please just send in another question, and I'm happy to read that one to Carol as well. So Carol, I'm going to, you now have the helm.
Next slide. It doesn't seem to want to let me work from my computer, Kate, so it looks like I'm going to need your help advancing.
Alrighty.
Thank you, everyone, for being on the webinar this afternoon. I don't think Kate mentioned that we are recording this, so there will be an opportunity for you to share this webinar with others on your team who may not have been able to tune in this afternoon. We know that the RFP has just been released very, very quickly close to this webinar, so we are imagining that there's some other people that might like to listen to it in the next couple of days. We're going to start. I'm going to try to zoom through some of these background slides. Much of this material is in the RFP itself, the document you already have. So I don't want to dwell on it, but I do want to give a little bit of a background so that those of you who are fairly new to this work will have a grounding in what we're doing, how we're approaching the work, and why we're so excited about your potential interest in joining Achieving the Dream. We start out from the place where many people do at this point in time, where we're really concerned about the challenges that we're facing as a nation, where for the first time in our history, the next generation of Americans will be less educated than their parents. We know, too, that most of the jobs that we're expected to generate in this country are going to be requiring more than a high school education. And we also know that to have a healthy democracy, we have to have an educated citizenry. So we are very concerned about these data, these stats that you heard, I know, in many different venues about where our nation's ranking is falling with regard to other nations in the world. Next slide, please.
There's a little delay, so I apologize.
The data that you've seen on the last slide and elsewhere in many of the reports you're probably familiar with have really persuaded many in this country that we have a crisis that deserves a wake-up call. Secretary of Education Duncan has said that we are facing extraordinary challenges and that we have to be honest about what's happening. Being honest about what's happening in community colleges is fundamental to the way Achieving the Dream operates as well. Next slide. We know that community colleges are going to be part of the solution to these challenges that our nation faces. We know that we have a majority of students are coming to you looking for certificates and degrees that are going to put them into a competitive position in the labor market. And we know that across the country, the community colleges are serving vast numbers of students. At least 6.7 million are degree-seeking students, and those represent nearly half of all of the undergraduates in the country. So community colleges are key to solving these competitive challenges and the challenges to having an educated democracy. Next slide, please. When the Lumina Foundation, about 8 years ago, started thinking about where were they going to make their investments as a relatively new foundation, they studied some of these data. Of course, they were older data at the time, and they concluded that the real place where they could make a significant impact was at the community college level, because they saw that fewer than half of all the students who start community college thinking that they're going to end up with a credential end up without such a credential. Fewer than half end up with such a credential even after 6 years of their first enrollment. So more than half are walking away with less than that or taking far, far longer to get those degrees. We know that that has a huge impact on their families. We know it has an impact on the country. And so the Lumina Foundation was the one that kicked off Achieving the Dream with a central focus on improving community college student success. Next slide. When Achieving the Dream was created in 2004, we started by recognizing that up to that point in time, most community college conversations were about increasing access to higher education. There was not as much conversation about how do you get students all the way to their end goals. We try to flip that now in Achieving the Dream. We're putting the emphasis on figuring out how to help students get to the end line, to get to their goals, to get to some measure of success, even as we still maintain that open door policy and that high degree of access to higher education. Our singular goal, though, is to increase the success for more of our nation's community college students, and we're focusing particularly on students of color and low-income students who at this point in time are not succeeding in numbers that are equal to some of the more advantaged students that come to your institutions. Next slide, please. We started out by trying to center ourselves around 3 very important pillars. Achieving the Dream is student-centered. What we do in Achieving the Dream is all about trying to make community college a better experience for students. So all of the decisions, all of the planning, all of the investments that we work with and that we advocate for are about that goal of trying to do what helps students, what gives them a better chance of success. We're also completely dedicated to the twin principles of equity and excellence. We believe that both are possible and necessary in order to close achievement gaps, in order to help all students be successful. For us, there's no such thing as trying to make an easier curriculum or an easier experience for students. All students should have a high-quality, challenging experience at community college, and they should have support systems that help them succeed in that environment. We also have a very strong base in this culture of evidence, inquiry, and accountability. Everything we do in Achieving the Dream is about operating from the standpoint of what does the evidence suggest is important to do? What does the evidence suggest will make a difference? How do we know what kinds of changes to bring about? We're asking constantly questions that lead us to greater understanding of how to make community college a more successful experience for our students. Next slide, please. We work on 4 different levels. Achieving the Dream has a very vigorous institutional change component, which all of you would presumably like to become part of, the part where we're working with individual colleges. We have about 150 active colleges at this moment. We are also working on public policy, particularly at the state level and somewhat at the national level as well. We are working on policy because we understand that institutions can run into roadblocks if they're trying to be innovative and bring about significant change on their campus. It's very possible that they'll run into a state policy that forbids some of the behaviors or some of the new practices they want to put in place. So we work with states as well as colleges to try to create a policy environment that allows colleges to be as innovative, creative, and successful as possible. We also have a lot of activity centered around the outcome of trying to generate new knowledge about what works well for students and how to do this work more effectively. And we also have a major portion of the Achieving the Dream work that's dedicated to engaging broadly the public in this agenda of increasing the number of students who are successful at their higher ed experience at community college. Next slide, please. I mentioned that we had 150 colleges who are active in Achieving the Dream at this point. We've had 160 that have been in the initiative at one point or another. This is a map showing you where they are clustered. We have a footprint in over 30 states, actually 30 states on this map. It will be expanded probably this year with a new cohort. We're also in the District of Columbia. You can see that some of the states have more concentration than others. Texas, Michigan, and Washington are states that have been targeted, have many colleges there due to the existence of regional funders who are supporting their participation. But you'll also see some of the darker colored states are where we are active with state policy programs as well. That means if it's a dark orange, we've got both a state team that's working on policy and local colleges working on change. If it's a light colored orange on your screen, that means we have colleges in that state, but we are not actively pursuing a state policy agenda at the moment. Next slide, please. The Achieving the Dream initiative was created back in 2004 by 7 national organizations that Lumina tapped because of their expertise in the area of community college. There was a combination of partners who brought to the table experience with the institutional change work. There were other partners who had experience working at the state policy level. There were still other partners that were researchers and still others that were experienced in engaging the public in this agenda. The combination of services and expertise that all of these founding organizations brought to the table is what enabled Achieving the Dream to have such a comprehensive program that touches institutional change, policy development, broad public engagement, as well as a robust knowledge development component. These same founding partners continue to work with Achieving the Dream now in 2011 and 2012, even as we now have a brand new nonprofit organization called Achieving the Dream, Inc. Achieving the Dream, Inc. is now putting in place all the things, lessons, and so forth that were learned during the demonstration period from 2004 to 2009. Achieving the Dream, Inc. is focused 24/7 on the singular issue of how to increase community college student success and completion. Next slide, please. We're going to focus mostly on what happens at the institutional change level because that's where you will have greatest interest, we believe. You will be asked, if you're in Achieving the Dream, to follow a 5-step process. It's really a continuous improvement process that probably looks similar to you from others that you might have been involved in. We ask all colleges to start by, first of all, committing to improving student outcomes, committing at the trustee level, at the president level, at the faculty leadership level, at the staff leadership level. We then ask you to go through a planning year where you are using quantitative and qualitative data about your students' performance and outcomes to identify where are there issues with students being able to advance appropriately through your systems. You spend about a year trying to understand which students are succeeding and which ones are not, where it's happening that they're running into stumbling blocks and trying to figure out why, and also trying to understand what the literature and the practitioner experience says are potential solutions to the problems that you identify on your campus. So you go through a planning process that helps you identify and prioritize those areas that are uncovered by your own analysis and research of what's happening to your current students on your campus. You also, during that planning year and thereafter, work on engaging other stakeholders in the conversations with you. We ask you to broadly engage faculty, students, and also members of your community in helping to identify priority areas and solutions and helping you monitor the performance of the innovations that you put in place. On step 4, we ask you to put in place an evaluation of those things that the data suggests to you would be effective practices and policies to put in place. Everything is gauged around trying to constantly understand what is working well, what is not, and being able to focus our energy on those things where we're getting traction and where you're having success. And then finally, we're talking about trying to take those successful policies and practice and making them a permanent part of the way you do business on your campus. This is a circular process. It never really ends. I think you'll recognize it as fundamentally a continuous improvement process designed to help drive you to ever-increasing success with your students. Next slide, please. I won't go over all of these, but we did want to offer up to you some examples of the kinds of successes that our colleges are having. If you look at one of these, for example, let's take Northern Hampton Community College right in the center of your screen. They've decided, their data was showing them that many of their students were struggling with their math. That's a common problem that we found across Achieve in the Dream. They decided to focus their energy on their math program, the early courses. They found that in 3 years' time, they were able to increase the success rates of their students in elementary algebra from 56% to 63%. If you look at Valencia was also targeting math courses. They did an analysis of which courses were most frequently failed by their students. And the top 10 courses most frequently failed included 8 that were math classes, including developmental courses as well as 101 math courses. So they focused all of their Achieve the Dream work initially on trying to improve the success rate of students who were in those killer math courses. And what they found is they were able to increase the success rate from an average of 59% in 2005 to 66% in 2010. What's not shown on this slide is that they've also had success in narrowing their achievement gap. When they started, white students were outperforming Hispanic students, and they were also outperforming African Americans. After 4 or 5 years, what they found was they reversed that. Hispanics were then outperforming their white students, and they narrowed the gap between white students and African American students by 14 percentage points. Those are the kinds of things that we would be looking for you to accomplish in Achieving the Dream as well, in whatever areas you decided to focus your energy. Perhaps it's math, perhaps it's in developmental English, perhaps it's totally different. Some other area where your data suggests your students are struggling and having the hardest time making progress to a credential. Next slide, please. I already mentioned this. We have 15 state policy teams who are working in some of our states. It's interesting, Kate, we'll have to change this slide because it says we have 15 teams working in 16 states. Looks like we've got a math error there. It should be 15 and 15. Let's go to the next slide. We wanted to get to the heart of what is expected of you in this RFP process. The proposal is due December 9th. We anticipate selecting up to 30 community and technical colleges to join the new cohort in the spring of 2012. Let me just stop on that for a minute and explain why that's so, those numbers. Each year we take in 20 to 30 new colleges. We bring them in as a cohort so that when you come in, you have other institutions that are going through the process like you are at the same time. So you'll have 20 to 30 colleges who are going through a planning year together, and we'll end up having some lessons from each other as they go through that cycle. You'd also have access to all the other colleges that have come before you, but they will be a little bit deeper into the work and more engaged. And so while they will give you lots of advice and tips and you'll have many opportunities to learn from them, the cohort that you start with is the one of 30 or so colleges who are going to be going through the same steps as you. We ask you to make a 3-year commitment to achieving the dream. The annual price of that commitment is $75,000. The total price is $225,000. That covers all of the services that you receive from Achieving the Dream over a 3-year period. And those services include many things that you can read about in the RFP. They include coaching. They include data coaching. Those are outside experts who come and spend time on your campus working with a core team and with a data team that you compose of faculty and staff who drive your Achieving the Dream work. You go to an annual meeting where all 160 colleges participate in Achieving the Dream. You have all kinds of services from a communications team. Many, many things go into that price package, but they're all designed to try to help support your work as you move forward. After 3 years, we allow colleges to continue in Achieving the Dream if they are interested in staying with us, and we hope that you would be if you join. Many of our colleges say one of the most valuable parts of being in Achieving the Dream is the connection that they have with the other colleges who are focusing on this work nationally. That opportunity to learn from peers, to get together at least on an annual basis, and to have quarterly conference calls with team leaders and so forth. Those kinds of activities, colleges are saying, are helping spur their own innovation and advancement. So if you've given 3 years of fundamental work in Achieving the Dream, then we ask you to stay a 4th, 5th, and however many years is still useful to you at a much reduced price tag. May we see the next slide, please?
Carol, before you go on to this slide, let me just put a plug in for questions that are popping up. If you have any questions, please type them into the question feature. If you can't see your question feature, you hopefully will see a little red box at the top right corner of your screen that has a white arrow. Click on that. You'll get a much bigger box, and there will be a question area to type in your question kind of in the bottom of that larger box. I'm getting some questions in. I'm going to hold them until Carol's done talking about Achieving the Dream, and then we will spend the remainder of the time, a good portion of the time, answering questions.
I'm going to try to wrap my part up in 4 minutes so we can get to the questions. So on this slide, we've highlighted some of the main services that you can expect to receive as an Achieving the Dream institution. There is a Kickoff Institute. We ask you to bring 5 core team members, including your president, and other key leaders in your college. It's about a 3.5-day experience. We do not know the location yet, but you can expect that it'll be early summer. During the first year, you will have 4 visits by a data coach who will help you as you learn how to build greater capacity for examining your student outcome data, reflecting on it, and sharing and presenting it to various audiences inside and outside of the college. You will also have coaching experiences. We assign an expert coach to you. It's typically someone who's been a former president and who is comfortable working in the kind of institution you have. If you're rural, we typically assign someone who has been in a rural institution. If you're multi-campus, we typically assign someone who's worked on a multi-campus institution. They make 3 visits during the first year. You also are going to receive registrations for the annual meeting where all of our colleges convene. That's typically in February. So February of 2013, you would expect to come to the annual meeting. You'll have access to our national database. You'll have tools that will help you do the data analysis work. You'll have access to other publications, other tools, and many, many materials that you can check out on the Achieve the Dream website. Next slide, please.
And to clarify, on the Achieving the Dream website, there's a members-only section which ATD colleges only have access to that has additional tools. That's in addition to the public side of the Achieving the Dream website, which everyone can view.
Thanks, Kate. That's an important clarification. On this slide, we've listed from the RFP some of the things that your institution needs to be prepared to cover out of your own expenses. Now, of course, we hope that you've got some folks that can help support your work, perhaps a community foundation or somebody else, perhaps an employer in your area would love to subsidize you. But even if you're using your own money, these are still the kinds of things that you're going to be expected to cover one way or another. That is, you would be responsible for the travel costs of getting to that kickoff institute, as well as to the annual meeting where all the colleges convene. We take care of all of the costs there in terms of we feed you and some of the, we certainly pay for all the preparations and the speakers, but you've got to get your team there. There's also some things that you'll want to spend money on yourself during the planning year. You may want to give some faculty some release time so that they can be driving the planning process. You may want to make some site visits to some of the Achieve the Dream colleges to learn more how they're doing some of the things that you're interested in. Any of those kinds of activities that you would like to do for yourself, you should think now about giving yourself a planning budget so that you can make some of these things happen in the coming year. And then, of course, unless you have a generous benefactor who's ready to give you some implementation money, you should be thinking, too, about how you're going to resource any of the new interventions that you might come up with. We typically advise colleges to think about reallocating resources that you have, trying to put money into those things that show the most promise for addressing the problems you uncover, and perhaps stopping to fund some of the things that data suggests are having no impact on your students. Let's go to the next slide. We pulled a couple of key dates out of the RFP. There's many, many more dates in there that will try to give you a feel for what you will be expected to do over the course of the planning year and beyond. But these are the ones that I think are most on your mind today. Your proposal would be due December 9th. We anticipate being able to let everybody know whether you've been accepted or not by mid-January. And typically, if we are not accepting you, unless there's something dramatically wrong with your proposal, typically what we're doing is we're dealing with a capacity issue, and we may well say to you, we don't have room this year, but we sure wish you would try again next. By March 1st, if you are selected, you would be receiving a bill for the first year's fees. There is something called a Readiness Assessment, which you should look at when you have a chance. This is something you'll be expected to do before you come to the Kickoff Institute. It's a process of reflecting upon how well you're equipped to start implementing Achieving the Dream's continuous improvement process. And it asks you to assess how strong you think you are already in terms of faculty engagement, for example, how strong you are already in terms of committed leadership. But it's a starting point for you to say, here's some areas where we're strong, here's some places where we're not as strong, and it helps you as you begin your planning year to think about where to put your energy. It's also a good picture for your coach and your data coach to better understand who you are and what you've got to build on. We mentioned the Kickoff Institute that you'd be coming to, and in August you would be putting together a work plan for your planning year. Are there any more slides, Kate?
Yes.
Okay. So we anticipate that most of your questions are going to be about how do we decide which ones of your proposals are the strongest. We're looking for evidence in your proposal that you have broad-based commitment to the student success and completion agenda. The more you can persuade us that your presidents, your trustees, your faculty leaders, and your staff leaders are behind this effort, the more competitive your proposal will be. We're looking to see if you have a clear vision for how being part of Achieving the Dream is going to advance your work. We know that you're already doing many things that are trying to improve student success. But how is it coming into Achieving the Dream and working with this collection of colleges? What is it about that that could really advance your own work? We expect that you'll be able to talk to us about what you've done in the past and what your strengths are and how you can scaffold on and build up to have a successful Achieving the Dream experience, building off its strengths. We're going to ask you to tell us who are you going to put on your core team. And we're going to ask you to give us some bios on those folks so that we can better understand how do they think about this work and what is their vision for taking it forward. All things being equal, if we had equally strong proposals from several different institutions, we would end up giving priority probably to some of the colleges that are in states where we are planning to build out more significantly where we are. As an example, in the state of Texas, we have a goal of building out there, and we are a bit shy of meeting our goal. So we're really interested in whether or not any institutions in Texas want to still come on board and achieve the dream. There's many states that we're targeting, though. We're continuing to target all of those where they have policy agendas that are on that map that we showed you. And we're interested in places that have high percentages of low-income students and students of color. So places like New York State and Illinois and California and Florida and North Carolina, all those places where you find high concentrations of these students are certainly on our priority list. But fundamentally, we're looking for places where you know that you have students who are not performing as well as they could be performing, and you have a strong commitment to helping them. That's where we want to work, where there's energy, enthusiasm, and commitment to make a difference to students. Any more slides, Kate?
I thought there was one left. There we go. So we will be sending everyone that was able to view the webinar, as well as those that may have registered but weren't able to view due to a time conflict, an email with a link to view the recording of the webinar. And on that recording, you'll be able to see all the slides that we went through and hear all of Carol's comments. Back to you, Carol.
Well, let's get some questions, Kate. Have you got some in the queue as people?
I have, and I want to encourage folks, if you have a question, then chances are a lot of other people on this webinar have the same or similar question. So go ahead and send those to me, or else I'll be embarrassed and sitting here hemming and hawing. So please send your questions. Harold, the first question is, if you are not in one of the highlighted states on the map, can you still be eligible for the program?
Yes, absolutely. Again, I was offering that up mainly as saying, you know, if we had everything was equal and we were really torn about, if say we had only one slot left and we were really torn about which college to pick, then that could be a factor that would sway us to say, okay, let's take the college in one of those targeted states. But most important to us is to find colleges where there's high need, a high commitment to do the work, and a clear vision for how this work would unfold. So we're very open. Even if your state is still colored white on that map, we're very interested in working with you if you have those kinds of things happening in your institution.
The next question is, can you give insight on why there are some institutions no longer with Achieving the Dream?
Yes, be happy to. I think I said that we had, one time we had 160, or our total count over time has been 160. The 10 that are no longer participating did stay for their full 3 years. Some of them stayed for 5 years or longer. But they ran into economic challenges in the last couple of years because of all the budget crisis that most of you have been dealing with. And so they felt like they had finished their initial experience, that they had learned a lot, and that they had gotten the guidance they wanted. So they were ready to carry the work out on their own, but they felt that financially it was no longer feasible for them to continue. Having said that, I will say several of the colleges who stopped out under those conditions have come back after a couple of years when they were able to get their resource base back again. They did rejoin Achieving the Dream. To me, that suggests that they and others are seeing value in being part of this national network. We hear time and again that to be part of something that's more than just your campus's work is really important. You understand what your connection is to the national goals. You get a chance to learn from other areas. And there's tremendous value in talking to the peers and having a formal relationship with other colleges that are committed to doing the same work you're trying to do.
So the next question is, where can folks find the readiness assessment that was discussed? And I've got up on my screen, there we go, the Achieving the Dream website. That's www.achievingthedream.org. And this is the home page. And I want to show you how to find that readiness assessment. We will also include it in that follow-up email. But if you find a circle with my mouse, click here, URL, link, and you'll see at the top, Readiness Assessment. And it will open with a Word file. There you go. So this is from our website, and fill it in with pencil, with a pen or pencil, or you can do it electronically. So the next question, unless you want
between now and when proposals are due, but if you have the time and the ability, there could be great value to you in taking that readiness assessment and having some of your team that's trying to put your proposal together to look at that now, what some of your strengths are, and it may give you some thoughts about how you'd like to respond to the RFP.
And a similar question, is there, similar to my screen, that I will say, is there, what is the time frame to complete the 5-step process? Should these steps be completed within 1 year, or is this more ongoing?
Well, it's an ongoing process. It is a continuous improvement process, and you never finish up with continuous improvement. You're always striving for the next level of success. The bulk of it, a lot of it happens in the first planning year. So you do go through very intensive data analysis in the first year. You have a lot of meetings and sessions where you're trying to get students and faculty and others to be talking about the data, trying to discuss what they think it's saying to them, trying to analyze some of the challenges that your college may be facing. And you end up at the tail end of the planning year with a 4-year work plan for how you're going to tackle your Achieving the Dream, wasn't mentioned yet, but the idea is to get you to think of a longer-term prospect of what are you going to put in place, how are you going to find when you start digging into your data. So you plan at the end of your planning year, and then you start implementing it the year after that. So think of it as circular, with a lot of the work starting in the planning year.
Carol, we have a question. Can we get the names of colleges in our RFP? It's actually attachment. Give a leader college a call. If you don't have a leader college in your state and you want to speak with someone specifically in your state, you can find all the college, probably going through this too quickly for a webinar. And let me find the list. There's a list of all colleges on here that I will find and show to you. But I'll go ahead and read the next question to you, Carol.
Okay.
Is there any concessions for Title III and Title V schools?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean. Are there any concessions for? I mean, I'm wondering if the question is, do they get additional priorities? We haven't been thinking that way, but I think if you are a Title III or V school, you may have resources that you can put towards your Achieving the Dream work. So that would certainly give you an advantage on your campus. It doesn't necessarily give you an advantage in terms of participating or being selected. Well, let me say, it doesn't give you an advantage in terms of being selected, but it might very well give you the money you want for operating your Achieving the Dream work. If that doesn't answer your question, just send in a clarification of what you were really wanting to ask.
And I can show everyone the list of all Achieving the Dream colleges, community college strategies. College profiles is near the bottom of the list there. If you click on that, you get the nice map, and you get all the states, and then a list of all the colleges in each state. Actually, there are two related questions. I'll read them both. How are you, or Achieving the Dream, measuring student success? Is it completion of a credential within a certain amount of time, percent improvement, or incremental progress? The second question is student success defined as graduation with an associate's degree, or are there other definitions?
Great questions. We have 5 outcome metrics that we're using to define success, and some of them are interim accomplishments and some of them are longer term. So for example, one of our metrics is successful completion of developmental courses and entry into gateway courses, such as your Math 101 or whatever might be the first in a series of 4-credit courses. Another metric is increasing persistence from fall to spring and from spring to fall. In other words, fall to spring and then 1 year. Another metric is attaining a C or better in the courses that are taken. Then there's longer-term metrics like completion of a degree or certificate or transfer to another institution. So there's 5. Again, you can probably find them on the website. There's 5 of them that we look at, and they really span the spectrum from those students who have to start with some remediation all the way through to trying to get students to an end goal of a degree, a certificate, or a transfer.
The next question, well, I have 2 questions I'm trying to find the answer to. I'm going to real quick find or show everyone. I'm going to show everyone how to find the field guide. So from the home page, under Community College Strategies, there is a promising, or sorry, 5-step process. We're back to the 5-step process here under Community College Strategies, Student Success. It's a PDF document, and you'll find much of what Carol just mentioned. And I have to browse a little bit. The benefits of involvement with Achieving the Dream. I'm going to find it for you. I don't want everybody to hold while I'm browsing. The next question is, are there any thoughts to share on backgrounds for members of the core group, i.e. at least one faculty member, educational background, etc.?
Well, the faculty member, at least one faculty member needs to be on the core team. The more faculty members, the better from our perspective, because in the end, it really is faculty who are going to make a lot of these things work for you, faculty and staff, those who are working in student services as well. We tend to look for a faculty leader who's got status within the institution. If you think that the most of your work, at least in the beginning stages, is going to be in the area of trying to improve your success with developmental students, then you would probably be wise to put the head of one of your key developmental faculty on the team. Or perhaps you have a faculty member who is a leader, like maybe they are active in the faculty union, and you know that if you have them on your team, you're going to have the support of all the faculty union. It's not so much what we see as the credentials as it is what you see as the right person inside your institution who can make things happen, has the respect of their peers, has the commitment and enthusiasm for doing this work, has the right idea about the fact that all students can learn and be successful, and really is able to be a key player in your work. That's who we're looking for.
And Carol, to go back to what I was looking for, there are several ways to view the success measures that you rattled off from memory, as wonderful as you are. On the Achieving the Dream homepage, under About Achieving the Dream, there are goals in the drop-down menu. If you click on goals, you'll get a bulleted list here of the metrics for success that you mentioned. And also, I wanted to show people, that's my PowerPoint. Well, maybe I lost it. It's also in the field guide. Let's see, the next question. Would you briefly summarize the financial aspect, such as the cost to colleges and any funds that may be available from Achieving the Dream?
Okay. The cost is $75,000 a year, each year for 3 years. That makes it a total of $225,000. That money is money that you get money to pay the national organizations and the coaches and the data coaches to provide support services for your work. And it also covers the complimentary registrations to the annual convenings and some other things. So all of the services that you receive and all of the opportunities that you have are supported by that money. In addition to that, you'll want to make investments in yourself. We ask you to go through a year of planning, and during that year you may want to have some retreats. You may want to do some site visits. You may want to put somebody on release time and cover their classes by some other mechanism. And any of those expenses are things that you need to be prepared to cover yourself. We don't tell you that you should put a faculty on leave. We don't tell you to make a site visit. We don't tell you any of those things. It's up to you to decide what would be beneficial and what does your own resource base allow you to do. You'll also want to be setting aside money for implementation. You go through a year of planning, you decide there's 3 new strategies that would really be a powerful on your campus given what you've learned about your problems and other potential solutions that people have found effective. Whatever they may cost, initially you may have to find resources to test them out until you get to the point where you can say this is a success and we want to ask our board to support this for ongoing from here into the relative future. All of that is money that you need to find. It can be money that you already have. Some institutions may have allocations set aside for going through reaccreditation. There's nothing in Achieving the Dream that wouldn't be completely consistent with any reaccreditation work that you're doing. And in fact, if that is what you're having to do soon, it will probably help you with reaccreditation. Many of our colleges have said it's been perfectly aligned and has really made that a smooth process for them. So if your college was saving money to pay for consultant help there, you might want to think about investing it instead in the Achieve the Dream work. If you have Title III or other resources that you can dedicate, it would be completely consistent with the work. There may be community foundations in your area that would want to support you. We are happy to work with you if there's a foundation in your promote the work and promote their investment in you if you let us know who they are. And we'll talk with you. We don't have funding that we can put on the table and say, we are always trying to raise that kind of money, and that may happen.
Carol, we have one last question, and I have a suggestion. My suggestion is we might want to talk about how colleges can use their Achieving the Dream work after a few years. Question, if you are a participating partner college of a managing partner assigned under the Completion by Design initiative, are you eligible to submit a proposal? Completion by Design grantee.
Yes, you are eligible to submit if this work should and could align with what you're already trying to do with Completion by Design. There's probably some things about the return on investment of Achieving the Dream. We had one college president who, in her former life, was an accountant. And so when she was making the decision about whether to join Achieving the Dream or not, she started thinking about how can I get full-time students one additional semester over what they were currently doing. She did a relatively simple calculation, and for her, she came up with a number that was something like she had to retain 90 students one additional semester in order to get a complete return on her investment. And she surpassed those numbers of 90 students a year quite quickly after she joined Achieve the Dream. So there may be some ways, if you need to be persuading people about how to find the resources, there may be a way of talking about this in terms of it's an investment now in order to be able to get a greater return down the road once we help students persist in your college. That's going to be the key for everything. It's the key for helping students get to their end goal, and it's the key for you to get the resources you need to keep investing in student success. Keep them coming back, keep them re-enrolling in courses that are leading them to credentials, and you'll have a powerful return on the investment. I think the thing Kate was thinking about, though, was we do have opportunities from time to time where colleges can apply for pass-through grants and be part of special pilot projects that are undertaken by subsets of Achieving the Dream colleges. Several different funders have come to us already, and we anticipate others will as well, to say we would like to invest in some of your colleges who have been in Achieving the Dream for several years. We would like them to be exemplars in, and then, whatever their interest is. Bank of America, for example, has been offering grants to colleges that are willing to put in stronger financial management literacy courses and counseling services for their students. So down the road, as you get in deeper into this work, there should be opportunities for special grants and special experimentations in areas that might be of particular interest to your institution.
Carol, that's our last question. I want to encourage everyone, if you have unanswered questions or questions come up as you're filling out the request for proposals, to please send an email to the email address on your screen. It's info@achievingthedream.org, and we at Achieving the Dream will respond promptly. Also, as you log off of this webinar, you'll have a little survey, and it just asks you for your comments and whether or not you think your college will be applying to Achieving the Dream. So be sure to let us know what's going on with your college, if you think they're going to apply, you're going to apply or not. And if you have any questions, to please send those questions to info@achievingthedream.org. Carol, any last comments?
I would just say that we are hoping that no matter where you are, if you're serious about this work, that you'll consider responding to this RFP. If you submit a strong proposal and we end up with a capacity issue this year, we'd certainly be looking at giving you priority in next year's. But we don't know yet what level of response we're going to get, so we don't have a way of gauging for you how many people might be trying to fill our slots this year. But if you're anxious to do this work, do submit a proposal. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to work with you in any way we can in order to achieve our goal, which is to increase the number of students that are successful in community college across the country.
And in addition to Achieving the Dream being available to answer any of your questions that you send in, also we've notified the Achieving the Dream leader colleges to expect calls from colleges thinking about doing this work. And the leader colleges have enthusiastically said that they would love to answer any of your questions that you have. And both presidents and the Achieving the Dream core team leaders at the colleges are ready for your calls, and their contact information is an attachment on the request for proposals. At least in my copy, it prints out as the very last page. So there are multiple resources in addition to the many things on the website that I showed you. Should you have any questions or want to explore further about how Achieving the Dream might benefit your college. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Everyone will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recorded webinar, and we will also include a link to the Readiness Assessment that was mentioned, and I flashed across the screen very quickly, so everyone will have that. Thank you again.